Okay, just briefly, and I know I got an email from Bob kind of giving me the spurs to giddy up through this presentation, so I'm going to go do my best to gallop through it. I've been residing now in Castaic for 31 years as a homeowner, raised a family here. I have a definite passion in following astronomical and space exploration issues. For the last several years, I've co-chaired the Light Pollution Committee at the Los Angeles Astronomical Association with my co-chair, Dr. Spencer Sohu, a research scientist at Cedars-Sinai, Los Angeles. Together, we've been working with the DRP and also with Supervisor Barger's office in updating the Rural Outdoor Lighting District ordinance, which came into being back in 2012. There's been a lot of changes in lighting technology since that time, and hence there's been an increase in light pollution and many ill effects associated with it. We're going to go right through the heart of the matter, and I'm going to skip a few things here. Briefly, we've all probably been familiar with this type of presentation. You're on a hill tower, high vantage point. You're seeing a fog of light every which way. It's not directed where it should be down to the area where it's really needed. It's going up the sky where it's not. And instead of seeing what you should see in the sky, for example, our own Milky Way, 80% of our population can no longer see it because of this. You see what you have. This, this glow in the sky, basically, a light fog. Light trespass, another common issue with homeowners. That's a frequent complaint with counties with light ordinance issues. You've got a bright light on a neighbor's house shining into your bedroom window, into your living room, for example. It's not going down to the ground or to the area that should be properly illuminated. This is a very important slide. I want to call your attention to it. If you look to the upper slide, you'll see a very common example of poor business lighting practices. There's actually an individual standing to the right of the building that you can't see because of the glare of those lights. If you look to the right with that hand obscuring the glaring light, you can see the actual individual person of interest next to the building. Additionally, the bottom image is a very telling image where a person cannot actually be seen completely through an open gate who is staring at you because of the glare of that light. If you look to the right, the glare is obscured by that hand, and you can clearly see the image of the person staring at you that you didn't know was there. The reason for this is because the glaring light causes your pupil to constrict. There's actually less light entering your eye. You don't actually see the periphery, even though your mind's eye perceives an entire image. This is more so for somebody driving by or walking by, which is the more typical scenario, of course. So brighter lighting is not better. Brighter is not better. It can actually cause you to lose detail. You can think you're seeing a full image, but you're not. It actually decreases security and safety. One thing, if I may, ill effects attendant with light pollution. There are well-documented studies that light pollution disrupts circadian rhythms, causes sleep problems. That in turn can produce a tendency to obesity, diabetes, and in particular in women, breast cancer. And this was noted in the county notifications that went to virtually all residences and businesses in Castaic in 2023 and 2024. It was also publicized online in the Signal. It harms nocturnal wildlife and migratory species. Castaic is a sensitive wildlife interface zone, and it negatively impacts a number of species. All-night lighting that isn't necessary wastes energy, draws more off the grid. Over time, it taxes the grid, all of our costs go up, and we get increasing rate bills from SCE as a result. Decreases safety and security, which I already showed with that previous slide, and it robs us of our ability to see the nighttime sky as we should. These are the principles of what is in the county rolled ordinance in terms of useful light. It should go where it needs to be. It should be targeted. It shouldn't be going up into your eye where it's not necessary, where in fact is counterproductive, obviously. It should not be any brighter than necessary. Subdued lighting is much more helpful. It allows your eye to dark adapt. It should be controlled by a timer or a motion detector light. And warm colored lights are a definite plus here. If you look out of your house on a clear night towards the southeast, you can see a god-awful bluish white glow from both Castaic and more principally the city of Santa Clarita. You bathe in that harmful emission long enough, and some people, unfortunately, are going to pay the price for that. This is a copy of the rule notification that actually went out to all businesses and residences again in 2023 and 2024, with the latter one going also out to the communities of Antelope Valley and Topanga, which are targeted in the rolled update. The presentation at the Antelope Valley Town Council occurred recently, and they are in support of this, and they are drafting a letter of support that will be forwarded to Supervisor Barger's office. The principles here are to, over a period of 5 years, to transition lighting from the brighter glaring lighting that you see in many areas to the more subdued, more focused lighting that is necessary. So you don't have the issue of omnidirectional light going every which way where it isn't needed, but rather where it is needed, generally towards the area that needs to be illuminated, the ground area level, and so forth. It makes recommendations for motion detector use and sets a limit for the brighter lighting at 2700 Kelvin. This is the same level of the street lighting that the county employs in the unincorporated areas of Los Angeles. If anybody doubts how bright that is, you can go out of your house tonight, look for yourself. As I understand, one or two of the previous council members here had actually complained that it was too bright. So we're not trying to induce blackout conditions by any means, but we are trying to mitigate light pollution, which is growing at about 10% per year. So we're trying to gradually reverse that process by starting at the periphery, which would be the Castaic area here, and also in the Antelope Valley and Topanga areas, because they protect the few remaining dark skies that we actually have in SoCal, and then work our way back into the suburban areas and eventually towards the city areas as we try to reverse that tendency of that increasing light pollution, again, at 10% a year. We want to try to reverse that. So the rolled update calls for the DRP to evaluate the feasibility of doing all this, to implement the proper lighting procedures, to allow businesses and residences essentially 5 years for a transition period. The lighting that would probably need to be installed during that time as these standards fail and lights go out, of course, over time, could be simply transitioned to the more energy efficient and more compliant bulbs that are described within the rule regulations. So the cost for this would be relatively minimal. In fact, would actually probably be more cost saving in the long run, because you would either be using motion detector lighting or you would be using more energy efficient lighting at a proper Kelvin temperature level that would be less harmful to people, to the wildlife, and
Find it again.
night skies. Comment? I'm sorry? Question?
Oh, Stephanie, I think you're unmuted and we heard you.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry.
Go ahead, Rod.
Okay.
So we need to get to the rural part, how it affects Castaic.
Right.
If you could get to that part of your presentation, I would appreciate it.
Right. Yeah. The basic, the essence of the rural outdoor lighting district update would essentially entail a conversion of the existing lighting in many areas to the described lighting within the rolled update itself. In other words, compliance to the maximum that's described in that update, again, of 2700 Kelvin. The lighting used in various areas would not exceed that. Again, that would occur over a 5-year transition period. It would call for focus lighting where the lights would be directed down to the areas where it's necessary. It would call, if in cases where it's needed, of shielding around the lighting so it's not omnidirectional, so it's not up in your face and your eyes or up in the sky where it isn't needed. Additionally, in areas where safety is of a concern, it allows for lighting in ingress, egress areas in the existing rural areas here in Castaic. It doesn't, again, entail blackout conditions. It allows for more of a subdued lighting that's more helpful in dark adaptation. And it does so by safely illuminating an area versus the glaringly bright lights that we have, which in many cases are left needlessly on throughout the night. Additionally, many of these areas are already lit by the county street lighting that was incorporated into the areas last year. And this type of LED lighting at 2700 Kelvin is much more effective for illuminating ground level, and that's why it appears much brighter than it is. And much of this lighting is already in place around the areas, for example, in the Castaic truck stop, as well as in the residential areas here within Castaic. So a lot of the additional lighting that we have now is redundant with that, and it's not really necessary. In many of these regions, we're actually lighting the lights with overkill from residential and for business lighting practices. So we're looking at as you see to your left here, business lights off by 10 unless controlled by a motion sensor, or if the business is open all night long, there's an exemption in the rural outdoor lighting district ordinance that allows for that. It's also allowable by a permit. The update does not change that. So again, we're not looking for blackout conditions here, but we are looking to mitigate the harmful effects of light pollution and to hopefully reverse it over a period of time. So that's kind of it in an overview. I did ask for the actual update to be shared with the council members. I'm not sure if that happened or not.
Yes, I sent it out to them. You sent me the document.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully they've had a chance to look at that. And if they have some specific questions, I can go ahead and answer that. I'm just going to go ahead and escape from this. I'm going to stop sharing.
There we go.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say real quickly, thank you for the clarification, because that was going to be my first question about businesses, lights off by 10 unless motion sensor. My question, which you answered, was what about the businesses that are open 24/7?
Right.
The majority of the businesses in our trucking district, and you answer that question. So,
okay. All right. Thank you, Bob.
So any questions or comments from our council members? I see, Chris, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm in a situation where I live right now where I look down towards the lagoon, and what I see is major lights being shined, all omnidirectional from the park area, the parking lots and the lakeside, the park down at the lake. And it's 24 hours a day, but it's a lot of bright lights, and it kind of spots the bottom of the valley with those bright lights. Also from the water treatment plant across the valley here, and then and another one is a floodlight that's kind of kept on at the top of the church, the hill on top of the church over there. Are those all considered then violations of this lighting provision if the lights are shining upwards?
Yeah, if they're in the rural area, which the update would include, there would be modifications that might need to be required to meet the code within that 5-year transition period. So if they're over the Kelvin rating, for example, 2700 Kelvin, they might have to be toned down with the replacement of the bulb during the time of that 5-year transition period. So yeah, if they're exceeding that Kelvin level, they would need to be brought up to code during that time.
But more importantly, the shielding part of it, where it just seems like it's a waste of energy and light to have it facing light coming up towards me on the hill, where it could
Yeah.
illuminate the parking lot or the park or the safety areas better if it were being directed downward.
Absolutely. That's what the rolled ordinance does entail, the emplacement of shielding and so forth. And that likely would occur during the time of that transition period. And by the time this is actually enacted, hopefully it will be, many of these lights will probably be in need of replacement by then or sometime during that period. Yeah, perfect. Good points.
So the plan is that when they get replaced with compliant lighting.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, well that's great. Good to know. And what about, for instance, a private entity like on the top of the hill? There's that church there. And like right now, I'm looking across, and all I see is one light on top of the hill. Where the moon comes up and stuff. I mean, it seems like it's unnecessary. What do you do about that? Is there somebody you can complain to or to?
At present, if it's within the rule boundaries, you can contact the zoning office. They're charged with enforcement on it, and they can come out and do an inspection if it's in fact within the rule boundaries at this point. Some of Castaic at present is, and some of it is not. Because of increasing development over time, the lines become somewhat blurred. And the Castaic standards, the community standard, actually extends out to a good portion of the Angeles National Forest, believe it or not. That's per the county mapping. So that area may be within that region now, in which case the zoning department could potentially act on it.
Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go to Stephanie English.
Thanks, Bob. Hey, Rod, it's Stephanie English from Supervisor Barger's office.
Yes, hi.
I haven't been deeply involved in this, but I'm just trying to clarify. There is a rural lighting district ordinance that DRP supports and enforces, but your plan extends beyond that, and is that correct?
Yeah, I do want to clarify, this isn't when you say your plan, this was actually authored and provided by Supervisor Barger's staff, by her office. We did not write this at the LAS. We provided significant input to it, but it's not our plan. This originated from Supervisor Barger's office, not by us.
I'm with Supervisor Barger's office.
Yes, I understand.
And I do remember conversations that we had about this a month or two ago. So what I will do is I'll circle back with you later and get more clarification. So what you're saying is you're representing the plan as the county has approved it.
That's correct. And my understanding is if we, as we continue to present, we're presenting to the Topanga Council in November. They're coming off their summer hiatus at this point. We hope to have their support as well. Collectively, we would like to have this presented to the DRP for further action. Our understanding is that it may be incorporated into their elements project, their environmental project. So we're hoping that this will be prioritized within that. And the more support we have to do this from the councils, the greater the likelihood that that will happen.
Okay, I'm personally confused right now, so I'll follow up after the fact with what the presentation was and how it compares to the county's regional or rural ordinance.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Rod.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that clarification. Anything else from any of the council members? I think we have a question from Susie Evans.
Yes. Who exactly do you report these violations to when it's like somebody's house blasting your house with lights?
Yeah, at present, it would be managed by the zoning department. They handle such complaints. It's the same thing in other counties and other states, for example, that have light pollution control ordinances. If it covers the area, it's usually managed for enforcement purposes by the zoning department.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
All right, thank you, Rod.
Okay, thank you. I'm hoping we can get the council support on this. I appreciate the favorable comments. If there's some additional feedback you could share with me at a later point.
I would be open to what the council wants to do, but for me personally, I think I need to get more clarification from the supervisor's office as to specifically what they're looking for support for. You gave us a lot of information. When I looked at the report that you sent us, there was only three little spots in there that was red that looked like additional information being added to the current ROLD. With Stephanie wanting to get clarification, I personally don't feel comfortable until we know specifically what the supervisor's office is asking for us to support. If it's supporting the night light ordinance, that's very generic. If it's supporting a specific regulations that the county's looking at, I want to make sure we're looking at just exactly what their regulations are going to be. So,
Yeah, the document I sent you again is from Supervisor Barger's office.
I'm recommending to the council
yeah.
that we wait for a clarification from Stephanie before we make a determination of.
Okay, yeah, it updates the existing rural outdoor lighting district ordinance.
Right, there was only 3 little sentences in that entire document that was in red. Is that the only change?
To date, yeah, that's correct. Up until this point in time, we are seeking feedback on this, obviously. So if there are additional changes, I mean, certainly this is the time to, for that feedback so that can be accomplished. There weren't any concerns expressed from the Council of Councils from Antelope Valley, for example. But if this council does have those concerns or has a request for additional information, then certainly we try to do
When we
that.
look at what the county is doing with regulations, it helps if we know exactly what the current regulations are and the proposed changes are. And I don't think that's clear, at least from what Stephanie is saying. So I think we need that clarification before we make the determination.
Okay.
Yes, James.
Yeah, just one quick thing around high level, a client compliance level. So just one thing that is, so right now, let's say I have a porch light and I know you want the light to be downward facing, and I get the idea that in 5 years I could install something new or whatever. I guess what I do want to ask is there a specific attack at, like, let's say I have a porch light like that and it doesn't accommodate to keep forcing the light down. However, just replacing a certain type of bulb in there with maybe a cap on the top where all the lights force downward, or even if it's a floodlight facing downward, even if it's a reverse from the socket, right? That there be a mushroom kind of thing at the top where it comes down. I'm just wondering if a lot of people could be able to comply with the new requirements that are come within the next 5 years without actually changing the light fixture that they're using, still get the right type of bulb that would basically meet the requirements and avoid anyone having to go to expense on their own property, getting a new designed light in there,
Sure.
costing them, hardware, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. The current old ordinance update for lumen maximums is 400 lumen. And that's enough light, for example, to walk at a darkened trail at night and see where you're going. So that's probably, similar to a porch light, perhaps, in total output. So long as it meets that, and that's in the current ordinance, and it's directed down, and if it's accomplished by a cap or whatever arrangement, as long as it's focused down to meet the ordinance, that's going to meet that requirement.
Yeah, I'm just asking that, is it possible that basically mostly, right, bulbs could be provided or I know I'll have to purchase them at Home Depot or whatever, but there'd be a lot of bulbs you're able to buy to be able to be compliant without having to adjust the type of light you have outside your house by having it meet the requirement by the bulb itself only.
I believe there are such units. I would have to research it to make certain of that, but I believe there are nighttime compliant bulbs that have like built-in shielding or directional focus of the lighting, so
Right.
it's not blaring out every which way.
Sure.
So I'm pretty certain that those are available, and I believe those are quite cost effective.
I mean, the simplest example of this is a focused floodlight, right? That already
Yeah,
does that.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
we're just talking about ones that face the other direction. They'd have to have a mushroom cap on top, forcing the light downward, maybe having some parabolic stuff in there to maybe force the light more downward, but you know what I'm saying. So,
Right.
okay, that's the end of my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, here, yeah, I'm going to follow up with a clarification, Rod, because when we talked about the night sky ordinance, we were told that, and what I read a part of that ordinance was for security lights at homes, they can't be on all night. They have to be motion detected. And then once they're motion detected, it's a limited amount of time that the light is going to be on. So that would be a change because there are homeowners that have security lights that are on all night.
Right. That is a change. However, the current ruled ordinance stipulates that more specifically for businesses versus homeowners. However, the ruled update does include that or approach that from both.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So it's not just not businesses that would impact homeowners.
Right.
Because it means if I'm going to have a light that is it's a sensor detected to actually turn on, and then it can only stay on for X number of minutes before it goes off, that is something you just can't replace a bulb. You would have to.
Right. That's true. Motion detectors these days are pretty cheap. They're readily available. They've been on the market for a long time. They're generally focused for the light going down, and it's not a difficult installation. So
No, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, Rod. I'm clarifying what
you want to clarify that for the usage
in the ordinance that's being proposed, that is a change, and it's not just a matter of shielding. It's a matter of how long the light can be on. It just can't be a light on outdoor lighting all night.
Right. If there's a reason for that goes beyond the usual and customary just leaving it on all night type of thing, the current ruled ordinance and update does not change this. There can be a request for a permit to allow for additional all night lighting outside of the normal hours. So there is a request for a permit for that. And the current ruled ordinance, as it states, there's no associated fee for that permit that's listed in the ordinance itself. So that is a possibility as well.
Yeah, you had something else you wanted to say?
Just on that subject, there is top possible ability to get a separate, an additional socket that puts the bulb in the socket above it, where you could get a little sensor that actually turns on and off even a porch light. So you could actually have that, but of course that defeats the purpose of a porch light in some cases, because in my case, for example, I have a light on the side of my house, which I'll be honest, it's on right now because I've had my catalytic converter stolen twice off the car that's out on the street that my wife and I use, right? So we've trying to figure out how to catch and I have cameras, right? So I'm trying to catch the crook, right? So in some cases, I might be the one asking for an exemption. So I don't know.
Yeah,
just like
unfortunately, those occur in broad daylight too. Those types of thefts, and I don't know how you stop those. And it is a quandary, and it's for the citizen as well as for law enforcement. So it is a difficult situation there. One thing, and I know you guys got to move along. I did mention this to Bob. There was a series of smash and grabs in April of this year, and some of them involved the Village Shopping Center off of Lake Hughes Road, late night. And I noticed the picture video still of the getaway car. It was parked right underneath a pole with a large floodlight there, and it had unfortunately no deterrent effect on the activity. On the other hand, if there was motion detectors in place instead, at least there would have been an indication of activity in the area, whereas static all night lighting does not give any indication at all. So at the very least, there would have been some degree of notification that if something was happening, because the lights were going on when they normally would not be present, go off. So you don't have that with continuous lighting. So that's just another benefit of the motion detector system. There is an alert there, potential alert at least. So I just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, I have the alert on the cameras too.
Yeah, got it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.